MECE is a powerful principle widely used in management consulting. So let's understand what is MECE. So MECE stands for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Let me break this down for you. So mutually exclusive, what that means is, see, try to imagine a pizza which is cut into 6 slices. Now each slice is separated from the others. There are spaces between them. No slice touches or overlaps with the another one. The space between them shows that each category is exclusive. Now let's understand what does it mean by collectively exhaustive. Imagine that same pizza, okay, but with all the slices together forming a perfect circle this time. Every slice is in its place, there are no gaps, and none of the slices are missing. And all the slices together are forming the complete pizza. So this shows that all the categories together exhaust the whole set, right? So what MECE ensures is that everything is sorted into neat, separate slices, and together these make up the whole pizza and nothing is left out. I hope this simple explanation of pizza helps you understand what MECE actually means. And if you are eager to master this approach, here is some good news. Our entire course on how to crack any consulting interview is now live on TalkMate. You'll find the link in the description below. And the best part is every single case that I've solved there is using MECE principles. So you'll learn how to apply this thinking in real case interviews. So let's understand, why is it that top consultants obsess over MECE? What is it that MECE provides? See, MECE helps us transform the way we approach a case, perform the analysis, and even provide recommendations. So let's see why MECE is critical. See, first, the way it helps is it keeps our thinking very structured and clear. Because when ideas are grouped in a mutually exclusive way, there is zero overlap and it just makes the ideas logically flow. And this makes it easy for whether it's our interviewers or clients or any decision makers to follow the reasoning that we are giving and also to see the solutions or recommendations very clearly. This also avoids any repetitions that can happen, right? Second is MECE also ensures completeness and comprehensiveness because it ensures that we're not missing anything, that you're not leaving any gaps. So every possible risk factors or any possible drivers gets covered, and this type of completeness helps us see the bigger picture. It finally helps us also boost credibility and trust because see, MECE signals that you are the kind of consultant who's very rigorous and reliable, who's thinking thoroughly and analyzing all the possible cases. And this is what interviewers and CEOs are looking for, right? They want somebody who is really meticulous and whom they can trust with the project. Now that we know the benefits of MECE, let's see where we can leverage this while we are solving our cases. And one thing that you'll be really amazed to see is that MECE can actually come in handy at each step of solving a consulting case. Right from the start, when you're trying to clarify the problem statement, then MECE comes in really handy as it helps you break down the complex prompt into clear, distinct buckets. Second, when it comes to laying out the approach, MECE helps frame every minor aspect that needs to be analyzed. Like, for instance, when we are splitting profits into revenue and cost drivers, there are no overlapping categories. And then as we move forward in the case analysis part, MECE helps ensure that each category is being analyzed really thoroughly without any overlap. And we're not missing out on anything or mixing two things. And finally, even when we are presenting our recommendations or summarizing all the findings, MECE helps us guarantees that the points are unique, crisp, and very easy for the client to follow through. So, in short, MECE is not something that you're just using once. It's more of like a habit in which you are thinking at every stage of the interview, even when you're clarifying the problem statements to finally providing recommendations. And don't worry, we'll discuss specific examples on how to use MECE at each stage, which will make it super clear for you. By the way, also our entire course, the link for which I just shared above, right, that has all the cases which are solved using MECE principles the way top 1% consultants do. So do check it out. Back to the example. So here I'm using like a very simple prompt just to showcase how MECE works at each stage. So the prompt is, our client is a leading shoe manufacturer whose profits have declined in the past year. So what could be the reasons and how would you help them solve it? Let me start with, using MECE while I'm asking clarifying questions. We'll start by understanding what does profit decline mean here and understand more about our client. So few questions that we can ask is the decline in profit due to falling revenue, rising cost, or both? See, the reason why this is MECE is because profit decline can only happen for these two reasons or both the reasons, right? When we try to understand more about the client, then we can ask, is the decline across all product lines? Like, it could be that our client is selling sports shoes versus formal shoes. So, do we know where the decline is? And then we can also break it down into, is it happening across all regions or in certain geographies? And the next step would also be what channel of sales, right? Which could be whether it's offline or online sales. So this helps us narrow down the problem state. Second thing that we can also do is to clarify whether it is driven by internal or external factors. So the way we generally ask this is the problem specific to our client? See, why this helps is because if there are social or economic factors, then even other players are going to be impacted, right? But if the issue is specific to our client, then we know that, it's an internal analysis that we need to do, and we can tell the interviewer that as we move forward into solving this case, I'm going to do an in-depth internal analysis. So I hope this helps you understand how we are using a MECE approach while we are asking clarifying questions. Over to the next stage where we decide on how do we approach the case. Now here, because it's a profitability case, so the easiest way to approach this is that we'll break it down into revenue and cost. And then we'll ask the interviewer, is the issue driven by drop in revenue, increase in cost, or both? This is very simple yet powerful way because the categorization that we're following here is making it totally non-overlapping and is including every possibility. Let's see how we can use MECE during case analysis. Let's say we decide that we want to look at the cost side first. Now, while we're doing the cost side analysis, one way to break it down in a MECE way is to do a value chain analysis. And value chain is nothing but the set of activities that a company performs to deliver a product or service to their customers. Here, let's say we have clarified from the interviewer that our client owns the entire value chain. So, if you think logically, it will start from research and development, and then the next step would be sourcing all the raw materials or any inbound logistics, which could be, things like leather, synthetic fabrics, rubber, etc. Then the third step would be the actual operations for manufacturing, which will cover everything on the design and development of shoe models, any cutting, stitching, assembling, and things like that. And finally, all the quality assurance and the compliance checks that will happen. And the following step will be warehousing and inventory distribution, which will be like, when we are shipping to retail stores, wholesalers, or any online customers and managing all the logistics part of it. And then our client will also have to do a bit of sales and marketing to promote their products, and this could be both offline and online. And finally, there'll be some after sales support, which could be things like return and repairs or any warranty claims and things like that, right? So if you see how this is mutually exclusive is each activity here is distinct and non-overlapping, right? And then when it is taken together, it will cover all the possible activities that our client needs to undertake to create value. So this is completely MECE in itself. And using this very easily, we can analyze what are the costs associated with each of the activities and then find out the main root cause on why the profit decline happened because of cost related issues, right? Finally, let's see how we can use MECE while we are providing recommendations. A very simple practice that I usually follow is to break it down into short term and long term. Short term here will mean any quick wins or what the client can do in, let's say, the next 6 months. And long term is mostly all the strategic bets that, will take some time and the client can implement them in the longer horizon. So here, let's say, if we find out that in that our returns logistic cost is high, right? This is something that the client needs to action upon quickly, right? What we can say here is that the client should streamline logistics so that they are able to reduce the returns logistic cost, right? And then when it comes to revenue increase, then launching all these loyalty programs or referral schemes can be quick thing and it can be done both offline, online. So that is also something that we can recommend. Now, when it comes to long-term solution, one way in which we can increase our revenue is to develop and launch new products or to move into new geographies or customer segments. Now, we all know that this is going to take time, right? And the second thing is pursuing any strategic partnerships, collaborations, or acquisitions. Like, for example, let's say our client is just in the formal category and they also want to enter into the sports category. So, rather than starting their own manufacturing line, maybe they can potentially acquire a smaller player. So acquisition is something that they can consider and then that's also going to take long time, right? So I hope through this example you're able to understand how we are using MECE at each stage of the case interview. If you've liked my explanation till now, please subscribe to our channel Techno Managers. So moving on, let me share some quick tips that will come in really handy when you're trying to think in a MECE way. See, one quick way in which I usually think about MECE buckets is to split the problem into two opposing sides because this ensures that the buckets are not overlapping and the basics are getting covered. For example, few easy things are breaking down into internal and external, like problems which are within company's control versus problems which are outside of it. Or let's say, when we're thinking about sales channel that the company owns, it can be offline versus online. Or let's say when the client has to make a decision, then it could be a financial decision versus a non-financial decision. So this kind of breakdown makes it really easy for us to get messy. The second is to break down the problem into sequential stages or steps. Because when we use a process, it will have something like a beginning, middle, and an end. And all these steps are just separate in themselves and they're also complete and exhaustive, right? For example, if when we think of a customer journey or when we try to find out why our customer footfall is low, then we can think about the pre, during and post stages of the journey. Even in the example, I've used the value chain analysis, which is covering end to end on all the processes that a client has to undergo to deliver a product. If you are able to map the problem onto a timeline or a flow, then you get a ready-made MECE framework. The third step is to use the existing business concepts or the building blocks. See, instead of memorizing frameworks, think about the fundamental concepts that make any business problem. And many complex situations can be broken down into those same logical building blocks, right? And these have been time tested in the business world. Like when it comes to external analysis, Porter's five force is something that breaks down the problem into whether it's a supplier power, buyer power, threat of substitutes, threat of new entrants, or competitive rivalry. So this covers all the critical facets that are required. Likewise, when it comes to, internal analysis, then SWOT, which is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, that comes in really handy. But just one thing to remember is not to force fit any of these. Now that you have a few tips, let's also see what mistakes we should avoid, right? So, one thing is that the entire point of MECE is to simplify a complex problem. If you create too many top level categories, then it just makes the structure very confusing, right? Let's say, if you have a very simple question like, improve a coffee shop experience. So if you say things like, I look at the coffee quality, staff friendliness, store cleanliness, location, pricing, mobile app, seating, then there are just too many things that you're calling out. A better structure could be something like, first, I look at the core experience and then the non-core experience. Here, core experience can be, let's say, pricing, the coffee quality, taste, and then non-core could be things like parking, location, mobile app, and things like that. A good rule of thumb is to stick to 3 to 4 top level categories. The second mistake is when people use inconsistent level of hierarchy, which is like mixing broad categories and specific ones at the same level. Like in this example, if we were to put core experience issues alongside mobile app issues, then this just disrupts the logical thinking. And the third step is including buckets which are not really relevant or specific to the problem that we are trying to solve. For example, when we are trying to look at internal cost reduction, and if we start listing out competition in the framework, then that does not fit, right? Because competition is something external. So please avoid all these mistakes. And if you want to practice cases for your upcoming interview, please book a slot with me on TopMate. We are at the end of the video. You can follow me on LinkedIn as I keep posting a lot of articles about consulting and business strategy. I would also like to share our list of books on strategy, guesstimates, and behavioral interviews, which are super helpful for anyone preparing for consulting or strategy roles. So please find the link in the description. I hope you've learned something new in this video. I will meet you in the next one. Till then, keep learning and keep watching.